Welcome to an ELA Training Services Maths video. Today we're talking about plans and elevations. Now a plan is something we should be familiar with. When we're making 3D shapes out of 2D shapes, we use something called a net. A plan is a similar concept. This shape here is a cuboid, meaning a 3D shape with 6 faces, 2 of which are squares and 4 of which are rectangles. If we view this cuboid from the top, we see a plan view. If we view it from the front, we see the front elevation. But if we view it from the side, we're seeing a side elevation. We can try and guess the shape, the 3D shape, from the 2D shadow that it produces. So this 2D shadow is a rectangle. Now what shape could make this 2D rectangle? Imagine you have a flashlight that's shining light onto a shape. Now the obvious thought is that it would be a cuboid, making this rectangular shape. But it could also be a rectangular shaped pyramid. You'll have to excuse my poor drawings. Now this time we have another shape. Its 2D name is circle. So what shape could make a 2D circle? Well, again, the obvious answer would be a sphere or a ball. The 3D name is sphere, but essentially we mean a ball. It could also be a cone, where the bottom is a circle and it all meets at one point at the top. So the side view would look like that. Or it could be a cylinder, where you have a circle at one end, it's joined up by a rectangle folded all the way around, and a circle at the bottom. There's lots of options. Now an elevation is slightly different. So here we have a shape where if we were to look at it on the top, its plan would be these two plus a lower down square. So that would be its top plan. And its side elevation, its front elevation, is taking this shape and turning it into a 3D image. So the front elevation would be 2 squares by 2 squares. Now the side elevation is where we would look at it here and here. Now because essentially we're standing here looking at it, we can't see this piece. So what your side elevation would look like is just 1 square on top of another square. Is this is what I've drawn as the side, and lastly the side elevation is what I've drawn as the front. Now as long as you're consistent in your labelling, so I would have had to have drawn an arrow here saying front and here saying side. As long as you're consistent in your labelling, it doesn't actually matter whether you call this the side elevation or the front elevation, but obviously from the top it's always going to be a plan view. Let's have a go at this one. So again, the plan view. Now we're up here looking down, so we can see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 2 here. We can't see this bit. So that turns our plan into 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3. Now it gives us the front elevation as this side here. So let's change pen colour. Our front elevation is we're standing here, and we can see this square, this square, this square, and this square, but we can't see this one, or this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. So this time our elevation looks a little bit like an L shape, where we have one square on top, one square on the bottom, and then two squares that come out the side. Lastly, our side elevation is slightly trickier. So again, let's change pen colour. Now again, we're standing here. So this time we can see this square, this square, this square, and this square, but we can't see here or here. So our side elevation is going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and a 1 on the bottom. Side elevation. It's easy to think of elevations if you put yourself in the particular viewpoint. Imagine it as a 2D picture from wherever it is you're standing. Now, another way of doing it is to think of it as building blocks. You may have had Meccano or Legos around at your workplace that you can visualize these as. So, here, we need to rotate the shape to find one that has a front elevation, a side elevation, and a plan view that look like this. Now, if I was at B, in the middle, at the top looking down, would my plan view look like this? Well, yes, it would, because I'd see this, and this, and this, but I wouldn't see anything else. So it could be B for plan. I'll put a P there. C, if I'm standing here, is this what my plan looks like? Well, it could, because I would see here, here, and here. So C works for plan too. Let's have a look at this one. Again, I'm standing up here. So I see this, this, and this. So plan works for all three shapes. Let's try side now. So we're going to assume that the side is this side for all of them. So if I'm standing at the side, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that fit this? It does. Side. If I'm standing at the side of B, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that match? Yes, it does. If I'm standing at the side of C, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So our side plan for C looks like this, which does not match the side elevation we've been given. So we can rule C out. That means it's all down to our front elevation to decide which one we're looking at. So remember, front elevation, we're standing here, standing here. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4. That matches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And B, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So our front elevation for B would be 1, 2, 3, but the fourth one would be here. So that rules out B, which means A must be the answer for the elevations and the plan view that we're given. Let's check. Fabulous. Let's try a different one. So again, visualize it. Imagine you're standing in front of it. This time, let's start with the front elevation. So we're standing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Already we can see it's not A. Let's start front elevation with B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, it can't be B either. Front elevation. Remember, we're referring back to this drawing. 1, 2, 3 in a row and 1 next to it. that matches. So it must be C, and we can decide that without even looking at the side or the plan view. If you wanted to double check yourself, you could obviously take your time and compare the two as well, but we can tell just by the front elevation that it is in fact C. Go at sketching the 3D shapes knowing the plan and elevation. So plan, remember, is looking at from the top, front is looking from the front, and side is looking from the side. So if you piece all these shapes together, you should have a shape where your side elevation is a rectangle, your front elevation is a triangle, and your plan is a rectangle with a line through it. Do you have a shape like this? Do we know what shape that's called? Prism. Fine. Now this time, plan, side elevation, front elevation. What does your shape look like here? So again, plan is the top that you see. Now in this instance, because we're drawing a 3D shape, you can choose which side to draw it from. It's going to be quite tricky to draw the whole thing correctly, but essentially, do you have a shape like this, where your plan is the L, your side elevation is you see 2 cubes, and your front elevation you see 2 cubes. So you should have something that looks like these. Last practice, let's draw a plan, a front elevation and a side elevation for this 3D shape. So remember, plan, we're up here, plan. So we can see one square, the square that we're stood on, and the square next to it. Now obviously in the exam you would have a ruler and you would have grid lines. Fit your squares to the grid lines and use a ruler. Make sure it's nice and smart, not like a hapdash sketch. Make sure it's smart and obvious in what you're trying to do. Front. So we're standing here. We can see 3 cubes along the bottom and a cube in the centre. Now for side, there we are. So what can we see? 1 cube on top of another cube. Again, use a ruler, take your time. As always, for more practice and more support, contact your tutor. Thank you.